You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
Hi! We're live! There's things on screen. There's people. And mittens.
It's happening!
Jazz heads! God, that's still broken. Fuck me. Thanks, Anominate! So I broke a thing. I broke a thing.
You broke a thing. I'm waiting to see what you broke here.
So it says that someone subscribes, but it doesn't actually say their name in my stream.
Subscriber 19. So what, did the subscriber alert not work for you?
No, for me, no matter what I do, I can't get the fix, so I'm working on it.
Luminal Flux for 20 months in a row?
Yeah, but I could see it in chat, so that's good.
Okay. Gouda 1776, Twitch Prime.
Yay!
Excellent, thanks guys.
Oh,
Remember for Twitch Prime, wow, Olaf Eriksson, Twitch Prime as well. Remember guys, for Twitch Prime stuff, if you want to throw Bezos bucks at the screen, you need to resubscribe every month. They do not have auto renew for Bezos bucks.
Yeah, it will
really
say that you are.
that.
It will say you're a resubscriber, but it won't. Like, you have to just press a button. That's all.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So today we have a pretty cool show lined up for you. We have the big CSM drama edition. If you haven't been paying attention, it is the CSM silly season. We're coming up for another election, and that means that we have a bunch of drama.
Yes.
The Redditors are up in arms. Mr. Hyde has come out attacking Wingspan and Reload, who does the Z-Kill guides. Meanwhile, the hoi polloi are grabbing torches and pitchforks because somebody suggested the CCP not give away free economic data in the monthly economic report. And so in general, there's lots of hang 'em high. Apparently, Mr. Hyde posted today or yesterday, I wasn't paying attention, on this particular nuance of, oh my God, stop sending me death threats. The idea of being sent death threats from EVE Online is something that is so old hat to me that I'm sort of like, well, you're playing EVE, of course you receive death threats, but that's just me.
You aren't playing well enough if you're not getting threatened with your life.
It's true. We have a bunch of people who are resubscribing, so I'm going to do some shout-outs here.
Yep.
We're going to do them before the next segment, actually, so we're going to make sure that we get that. I do see, again, you're seeing awesome new graphics all the way around from the creative department at Imperium News Network. Fear and Balance News. Fear, Balance News, and awesome Twitch alerts. So if you follow, you get to see the new animation. We also have fancy donation alerts. There's 3 levels of donations, bronze, silver, and gold, and they each have different animations. So if you throw money at the screen, you get to see something escalating in terms of coolness. I think that the top tier is like, you send us, is it 20 or 25 bucks?
I think it's 25
for gold. I think it's 10 for silver. We're gonna get a pre-roll screen for any of these things.
Yeah, it's 25. So
25 for 25 and up is gold. Yeah. So what we're gonna start doing for these shows is for pre-rolls, we're gonna have a video that shows everybody what the alerts are and also just reminders and things, and so we don't just have MS Paint. Not that there's anything wrong with MS Paint. So what are we gonna be talking about today?
So we got a lot of things. Go ahead.
What do you want?
No, I was just gonna point out that there's a dread bomb happening on the test server right now.
Hell yeah.
So what you're seeing right now is, of course, the weekly training. You have an avatar get tackled. A lot of dreads have dropped, about 50, and then another group has to save it, and that's what they're doing right now. So
it's excellent. Fun. This is the weekly Imperium post-fireside training up.
Yes.
So what do we have going on? So today we're going to be talking about, obviously, CSM 11 and 12, all the drama. We have 2 guests associated with that. We have Nullsec News. We're going to be talking about Brave Newbies heading to Catch, Coven striking a deal with Tesco to leave Esoteria. We have a bunch of dead Cancer Child supers. 7 dead Care for Kids supers for that fake charity. Related to that fake charity, of course, is it is run by C4W3 or whatever, who is the CEO of Rikoku, a shitty corporation from Band of Brothers, which has been kicked out of PL for being a shitty corporation.
Yeah, I know. Funny.
So that's going to be a pointing and laughing session. New Keepstar from CO2. and we're going to be talking about the CSM Summit and possibly two-factor authentication. So as we move towards our top story, which is going to be the CSM, let's give some shout-outs, and then after shout-outs, we're going to introduce our guests.
Okay, so we have just a few. Borox subscribed for
2 months.
Yeah, 2
Vote
months.
for
That's
CSM, Anarchy in Iceland.
Yeah, that would be
Rum
bad.
Waffle for 27 months. Wow, dude, thanks a lot. Blast Him to Hell, 5 months. Oh, hi. RDevs with Twitch Prime for 5 months. All those Bezos box. Then, of course, Olaf Eriksson and Gouda with Twitch Prime, which we covered earlier.
Yay! Yeah, we got everyone now. So, as
we are good to go. Let's
press
go
the
towards our
button.
top story. Press Bhutan.
All right, so our top story today is the CSM 11 and 12 twist turns as we roll into election season. As everyone is more than well aware, election season is in February/March. It's where we find out who's going to be voted on for the CSM, and then at FedFest they always present who is going to be the current CSM for the CSM 12. As we know from last week, we are moving into a 10-man candidacy, so everyone's freaking out and trying really hard to figure out who's going to be the candidate. And the most recent drama comes out of the push for a low-set candidate. As everyone's aware, Mr. Hyde was the low-set candidate everyone liked going into CSM 11, and now we're having a little struggle as he steps out of CSM 11, and someone else is trying to take his place.
Well, let's bring on board our guests. We have
Yay!
both Aerith and Anominate, who are representatives from Gunstorm Federation to the CSM, to the current CSM, along with Zenuria on a 14-man CSM, the last 14-man CSM. Anominate, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Aerith and say who you are, what you do, and yeah.
Hey, I'm Anominate. Aside from being on the CSM, I get to deal with the goonfuckers.
That's right. He is the director of Goonfucker Affairs.
I like that.
Essentially. It is a fun position because he finds people who need to be shot for the common good. Aerith, who are you?
I'm Aerith. I do finance for our directorate. Some people may know it as the Jubal. It's been referenced in previous posts.
Are you the guy who was photographed on the CSM stuff as the dude wearing a bandana like Buff Fresh?
Yes, that was actually some sort of like rioter's mask thing that was given to me by another CSM.
That is pretty awesome.
That is actually really amazing, because I looked at that and I was like, wait, when did Buff Fresh get on the CSM? And then I heard
it
him
actually
talk.
came from Jintan, so Jintan evidently just carries around like face-hiding masks.
Yeah, so I heard you talk.
You gotta watch out for
like,
those shady Privy Block people. You know, you never know what they're up to. They're part of the Black Bloc, potentially.
He did have some good advice for dealing with tear gas.
That's true. I have heard about this. So here is, let's go ahead and, so some of our viewers might not know what the drama of this week is. I briefly referenced to the Mr. Hyde thing. So Anominate or Aerith, I'm not sure which one of you wants to cover this. Can you give us an overview of the two big dramas, of course, the Mr. Hyde stuff and also the monthly economic report? I'll ask Aerith about the monthly economic report because he handles finance. Anominate, why don't you tell us about this whole Mr. Hyde thing and what your view on it is?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I mean, Hyde was a really good CSM member who contributed a lot and worked well with everybody. I think some of what he's seeing with Reload is a concern about whether or not he's the type of personality who is going to be constructive in that kind of an environment.
Would you say that Hyde had been constructive in that environment?
Absolutely.
Well,
Like
that
the
brings
whole
up
CSM, I mean, in the past CSMs, we've been hearing horror stories about infighting and nobody could talk and just nothing getting done. But this entire CSM 11, I mean, a lot of us hate each other in game. We all want different things, but everyone was able to sit in a room and constructively work together.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say makes for, based upon your experience, what would you say going into the CSM 12 elections, what should people be looking for as character traits or positions? What do you think makes for an ideal functional CSM candidate?
People who can get outside of the game, people who are looking for the betterment of the game in general, and people who are just not so much focused on one narrow little aspect of the game. And more than that, anyone who's trying to run on a platform of like a pet feature or I'm going to get this change pushed through, they're not going to be useful on the CSM.
Yeah, the pet feature thing has always struck me as funny, and I, of course, was on CSM 6 as the chairman. And one of the things that we talked about in that election is that there are oftentimes people will run for the CSM saying, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and I'm going to change all of these amazing things, and I'm going to go make X and Y happen, which is just fundamentally against the nature of how the CSM itself works. You can't just insist upon something happening, get elected, and then magically be in charge of game design. We're seeing an awful lot of explosions in the background.
Yeah, they're
on CC.
They're dropping more and more Titans and Faxes, and it's kind of hilarious to watch because Team Purple's whooping Team Blue's ass right now. But one thing I want to point out about this, it all started from a link I put in the chat here. It's called CSM Drama Delicious, and it's a post by Mr. Hyde worried that this Rhineland guy, I don't remember much about him until Anamita just a few minutes ago said that he was the guy that makes or Anamita or yourself, makes the videos for Z-Kill.
Z-Kill,
he's hilarious. That's hilarious videos, but I don't think that qualifies you as a CSM, so Mr. Hyde, being a CSM member, seeing how much work you have to put into it, goes, I don't think he's qualified, and to give you a comparison, let's use Wingspan. Wingspan, who's liked by Reddit for his Wingspan delivery videos on YouTube, goes apeshit in this thread and starts slinging shit himself, and they go back and forth for quite a while. And that's what started all this. So it was like Reddit gets a hold of it and goes, yeah, fuck you, Mr. Hyde, we didn't like you anyways. Which is kind of ironic.
Wingspan was on was he on the CSM or the previous CSM? Was he on 10?
I think he was on 10. And he took this one off. And he's been doing a lot of like Wingspan delivery videos where he flies around that bomber in like wormhole space and shit. So him getting called out was interesting. So I don't even know.
Well,
it's kind of a shit show, right? Because why would you defend one guy who just makes YouTube videos and say he's a better candidate than another guy when Hyde, who's done it before, right? Done the CSM, dealt with the issues of it, comes out and goes, yeah, I don't know if this guy's qualified. Like, I don't understand why they attacked him. And even went so far as, and we'll show this here in just a second, Hyde had to ask in a Reddit thread for people to stop sending him death threats. Now, I understand.
Asking Redditors, asking on a Reddit thread to behave and stop sending death threats and act like adults, it seems a little bit ass backwards.
I read every single comment in this thread.
I'm so sorry.
For death threats. And they're all apologetic, like, oh, that's so terrible, that's awful. But I quite remember when you were getting death threats. And Reddit loved it. The they thought it was the greatest thing ever. It's
that's
kind
because
of
they're hypocritical.
Right, exactly. There we go.
Right. I mean, that's just sort of the way it is. But let's get back onto the topic of CSM regarding the death threats. One of the things I wanted to, the next big thing, regardless of this Hyde drama, it sort of seems like a tempest in a teapot, because one of the most important things in any election is recognition. Good press, bad press, it almost doesn't matter. We've seen this repeatedly proven in real world politics and in the CSM. So in and of itself, Hyde making this big, hey guys, Reload is a bad candidate thing is probably the best thing that has ever actually happened for Reload's candidacy.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Because many people wouldn't have even realized that Reload was the Z-Kill guy. They wouldn't have realized he was running for CSM. They wouldn't have cared or paid any attention, but now by calling this guy out and saying whatever you do, don't vote for him, and making a big stink about it, now everybody at least knows who Reload is,
right,
that
exactly.
he's running for CSM, and there's a thing. But let's talk about the other controversy, which is the monthly economic report. So there was an announcement by CCP Quant. This was just before the Mr. Hyde Reload drama. Beautiful explosions on CC, by the way, we're seeing.
Yeah,
I love having this background.
I love Doomsdays.
What we have seen is that CCP Quant have announced that in the monthly economic reports, they are no longer going to be including region-by-region production and mining and all of these other attachments. Essentially, the monthly economic report was a package of free intel without requiring any recon, sort of like FuzzySov, which is one of the dumbest mechanics of the FuzzySov system, where it tells you, without needing to do any homework, where a Sov timer is on the other side of the galaxy. I can tell you what's happening Sov-wise in Amist right now without doing any work. So handing children information on a platter of here is all the activity in a region. That
it's even worse than that, right? So some of the intel you would get from that economic report, such as the mining data, we even talked about it here a couple times, you can't get it on .land. It's not in the API, right? So you can't actually track it physically yourself. CCP has to tell you who's mining how much. So the fact that it's not publicly available makes it impossible to find out without CCP's assistance. That's why this is a big deal.
So before we, so that's our Bode and I's sort of uninformed opinions.
Yes.
We are not on the CSN currently, but I want to bring Aerith in on this to talk about the monthly economic report issue. Aerith, of course, is infamous for being one of the Goonswarm finance cabal. So Aerith, why don't you just tell us your view on this monthly economic report, what the controversy was about, how it went down, and how did we end up with all these torches and pitchforks? It seemed like people were going after Jintan or something or other.
Well, I'm going to make a controversial statement. I know Anomaly may not want me to say this, but I can't stress this enough. That report was not accurate. Like, that'll be a controversial statement. People are going to wonder what I meant by that, but it's not remotely accurate. But a large part of this is it's the free intel angle, but it's more important than that. This is information that leads to knock-on effects and being able to calculate other parts of the EVE universe that probably is not intended by CCP. And the average player is not going to pick up on that. Maybe some of the top tier economic players will, but they know what I'm talking about. Like, this is revealing far too much, and it's not just about Delve. It's about the rest of the EVE. And so I was the one that advocated for this. None of the other CSM really had any objections to it. No one could think of one. And I actually lobbied when I went in there for quadrants. Like, I wanted to go back to the old Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest quadrant style. I can't say whether they were receptive to that or not. I think that'd be breaking the NDA, but I did try to keep some of the data as much as I could, if we could, but if not, then I definitely wanted it hidden in some form.
But so you are, as far as we're talking about death threats and Reddit hate mobs, so it's it is, in theory, it's your fault, but these people were going after, they were screaming, "Oh my God, CSM, how dare you!" Everybody knows that we're mining and producing more than anybody in Delve. It's not really a big secret. We're the largest organization in the history of gaming. Goonswarm Federation is just the biggest alliance/clan/guild/whatever that has ever existed in online gaming. So of course we're mining and producing more than everybody else. But what were you seeing? I wasn't tracking exactly who the Reddit mob was going after, but they blamed somebody. Who was it? Was it?
Well, Jintan tried to step in front of the bus because Jintan hasn't learned yet that the mob are douchebags and their opinion doesn't matter because most of them are mouth-breathing retards. And he keeps still trying to interface with the mob like something good is going to come of that. And so they attacked him even though he was just trying to solicit feedback and he had nothing to do with it other than the fact that he didn't object.
Yeah, the best part
it amazes me that there are still people that think that you can have a rational discourse with the seething masses of idiocy that make up our EVE and that echo chamber. I mean, it's funny whenever you see a game company send a representative to try to post and negotiate with that mob, they still haven't figured out. So Jintan jumped in front of a bus and got run over. How did who else sounded off on this, Aerith, since it's actually all your fault?
I don't think anyone else had any input other than they couldn't think of a way. Maybe a nominee. I think maybe you backed me up. I don't know, but no one else really even said anything. I was just CCP asking why, and they would inspect, but I can't tell you what kind of questions they asked or what came of it, but I felt like it was a well thought out thing, and I think the Reddit mob believes it was some sort of hidden agenda.
Amazing conspiracy. Well, no, I mean, free intel is dumb. Like EVE, you are supposed to work to find things out. Of the Dominion system, you had to work to scout when there's a SOV timer. In fact, during the Fountain War, and this added to the metagame, because our espionage agency would infiltrate the recon agencies of hostile entities and fiddle with their spreadsheets. So they would think a SOV timer was at one time, and they would show up for a SOV timer based upon their recon data, which was altered and was wrong. And you don't have that kind of gameplay now because Fozzie decided to give perfect information to everybody in one of the worst SOV system update ideas that I've ever seen. But Aerith, in public, did anybody else besides Jintan try to step in front of the mob of idiots? Or was it just Jintan?
I think it was basically just Jintan. I think one other maybe Hyde or somebody else posted once, but it was all
most of us knew better.
Yeah, the funny thing here is Jintan's like, one of the top comments is, can they go eat a bag of dicks? They're fucking cowards. And he goes, provide bag of dicks, thanks. Which is wonderful. Like his idea.
I just don't even know. I mean,
I don't understand. Like, why?
They're gonna come after you now, I guess. Well, actually, it'd be funny to see whether they do come after you because we've now revealed here on live TV that Aerith is the one who was responsible for suggesting that people shouldn't get free intel in EVE Online. It's not like people don't know that goons are outproducing everybody. So getting that quarterly economic or monthly economic report isn't going to change a damn thing. But I'm eager and I look forward to seeing a hate mob go after Aerith, and I'm going to go ahead and condemn everyone in the hate mob that went after Jintan, that went after any of this. If you're participating in a Reddit hate mob in general, if you're posting on a Reddit hate mob about how somebody should be burnt or how somebody should die or whatever, you are a bad person. Period. You are a bad human being. You should feel ashamed of yourself, and you are not someone who I want on our side at all. So I eagerly look forward to seeing everybody go after Aerith on Reddit and rabble, because I enjoy seeing an angry rabble. Because if you're part of that angry rabble, you are probably a piece of shit. There you go.
Well, it gets better too, because when you look at some of this shit, it's like you elected these motherfuckers to go to the CSM, right? You elected them to be there, but then you want to complain that they're doing their job, right?
Well, they want to basically just have their cake and eat it too. That's actually a really funny link that Not 120 posted, which is a picture of a bag of gummy bear dicks. So, what are you expecting to see on this upcoming CSM? Now that it's going to be 10 permanent attendees. What are we seeing nominate in terms of who the main candidates are going to be that you think have a hope of making it onto the CSM with this upcoming cycle?
Well, more than anything, I want to see as many of the incumbents get back in as possible.
And why is that?
Well, most of us, was our first time on the CSM, so we're all newbies to this and figuring it out as we go. And just on this second summit, it's clear that we're all getting a lot better at it. And getting us in here for another term, we've got that behind us. We are a group that works together well. And one of the big challenges on the CSM is that the NDA prevents us from talking about a lot of the things that we've actually gotten done. And like there's some big things in there that if people knew about, they would be really happy. But
well, but there's only,
about
currently the incumbents, there's 14 incumbents, but there's going into 10 slots, right? So of the, are some of the incumbents, Mr. Hyde is obviously dropping out.
Yep.
Who else do you know of that is not running again from CSM 11?
Let's see. I don't think Kyle is running again. I don't think Nash is running again unless he changed his mind there.
He's thinking about it, but no, he doesn't sound like
So that's 4 right there. No, 3. That'd be 3.
Well,
Gorski's
politically,
not running again.
And
Gorski's not running again.
And I don't know
what a shame.
Will the judge get on without our big voting numbers? Like, will judge run again?
He should.
Because he'll have
What was
CO2,
that?
but will he have everyone else?
Aerith, what did you say about the judge?
Like, he should be able to get on. Like, if he runs again, he should be able to get on just barely, but he should be able to get on.
If he can get test backing, he'll probably get on.
Yeah, because see, that's the hard question, right? Like with goons, if we vote block, which is what we always do, our guys will get on, right? The 2 people that we vote on. But guys like Judge, who may get CO2's backing, but maybe Test wants to run their own guy, or FCOM wants to run their own guy, or Tri wants to run their own guy, and then it becomes like a struggle or a squabble for those last few 3 or 4 spots because they don't vote unified,
If they're not working together to get Judge reelected, they are screwing up.
Ooh.
So you would say that even though CO2 are, traitors, and CO2 are traitors and backstabbers, and we hold them in nothing but contempt, once you get outside of the game and you got to the table of the CSM, Aerith nominate, what did you think of the judge?
I think it was great. He was good for Null. He had thoughtful responses. He didn't sit there and have the knee-jerk response. He'd sit and think about it for a little while.
That's good.
He might be our enemy in game, but as a CSM, we all work together great.
That was one of the things that on CSM 6 that I noticed is when the nullsec, this is why they had to, or they didn't have to, this is why CCP did change the election system to a single transferable vote, is that when you have a united CSM full of adults, things get done. On CSM 6, we had all of the adults in the room from nullsec seized control of the CSM using the amazing power of the ballot box, which of course, in an anti-democratic method, than everybody else tried to whine about, because we won a free and fair election. But everybody who was enemies within the game represented essentially similar constituencies, and we spent a lot of time on CSM6 working quite directly with Elise Randolph and Celine, and other representatives from the side of PL, essentially. Speaking of course, we're going to have. Has Vince officially declared his candidacy yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen any
I'm
posts.
asking Eric
sorry.
Have you guys seen?
I'm not sure if he did officially, since you say it like that, but I was under the impression that he had, yes.
I'm going to actually see if I can find it in the if he's actually posted a candidacy thread. Now, we don't actually know formally who the candidates are. We're in the period where everybody declares the candidacy. What is the deadline for the candidacy period being over? Like, when is the last day? So next weekend is the last day. Gotcha. So 17th, Noisy Gamer is saying that Vince has formally declared, and he made a forum post. That's okay. Okay, so there's that. So NC vote going towards Vince. There's a rumor that Sword Dragon is interested in it. Has Sword Dragon gone after it yet, or is he just talking about it? We'll let Chad, obviously. Noisy Gamer is an expert in pretty much everything.
Yeah, Noisy Gamer can pick this stuff up faster than I can. Like, I'm Googling, but he gets it a lot quicker than I do.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Vince has never run for CSM before. Vince has never turned up at FanFest or an Eve Meet that I can see. So NC actually stepping into the political arena is a first. We've never seen an NC representative on the CSM that I can remember.
And the only few times...
Sword Dragon has also declared, so that coalition, I think, has...
That's interesting because you have GOTG tend to vote their own way. Like, one thing we didn't bring up that's going on recently is... oh, here we go. Is that PL has been harassing GOTG pretty heavily, and we'll get to that when we talk about the Brave segment later. So it'll be interesting to see how Horde votes in all this, because you have Sword Dragon running, you have Vince running. I'm sure PL will run a candidate again. So it'll be interesting to see who goes.
I did hear Killabee. So essentially, one of the things about alliances that are elite PvP is that they simply don't have that many humans, right? And elections are about votes, and that means people. So an entity like the Imperium tends to do very well. We're very organized because we move mass numbers of people around. Entities like Pandemic Legion and Northern Coalition, NC and PL, they are elite raiding guilds, basically. So they have a few hundred people within their organization and 2,000 characters thereabouts, or less, depending upon size and bloat. So they really need to have meat shields voting for them. So Pandemic Horde is going to, who's going to get votes for Vince? They can get NC. Is that going to be enough? They would get Guardians of the Galaxy, but Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be competing for votes
for
Sword Dragon. Bobmon also running for PL. Bobmon and Killabee. So PL will probably go for Killabee.
Killabee, yeah, and then you'll have
Bobmon
has Horde go.
Bobmon has no ISK because he doesn't have casino money ISK to fund Eve News 24, which is what backed his candidacy before. He's no longer the editor of Eve News 24. But each of these random little constituencies helps balkanize what could otherwise be a block vote. So yeah, I mean, I would sort of assume that Gobbins will try to get people from Pandemic Horde to vote for Killabee, but at the same time, in a lot of areas in nullsec, we've seen people don't organize votes. They say just vote for whoever your conscience feels like, and then people don't vote. They're not organized. They just spew votes everywhere.
Yeah, an interesting thing too about Horde is that Horde lately has been pushing a lot of its members to do their own thing, and Gobbins has been taking his group to do whatever. Like just recently, we with the issues with game Guardians of the Galaxy and PL, he's actually stated that he would help Guardians of the Galaxy keep PL out of town because PL's just memeing up on everyone. Even Horde has some drama with PL lately. So you could even see if Gobbins goes, yeah, fuck this, and makes his own person, like his own little dude to run. Because that could really fuck things up over there, you know?
Noisy Gamer brings up a really interesting point, which is that Cal from Horde is running.
He's one of
there is like a native Horde FC candidate, right? So if he actually gets people to vote for him, then that's further fragmentation in that. Do we know if on the Imperium side, Actually, I wanna bring up a person who is a close personal friend of mine. I've known him for years, but I don't micromanage anything involving the CSM. I'm not on the CSM. I'm busy wearing red shirts and going to nightlight parties, as it were. But Nominate and Aerith, is Sullen Decimus from the Bastion running again, and what can you tell us about your work with Sullen Decimus?
I'll take it, I guess, and nominate. Yes, he is running again. We're actually considering putting him as our third slot, and he was great to work with. He actually did a lot of the back-end heavy lifting, spreadsheeting, things of that nature on some big problems that affect the game, so I think he'd be great.
One of the things about Sullen Decimus, I know him as Shiloh, is the dude's a badass. Like, literally, like, he is, I'm trying to remember whether it's competitive, but he's a snowboarder. He's like one of these like extreme sports dudes.
Oh, wow.
And he rolls hard with us in Vegas every year, and he's a goddamn adult, right? Like, he's a hitter. He has always been somebody that I've had a great respect for, so I'm delighted to see that he is interested in running
I like
again.
the way you word that too. He's an adult, because it seems
Well,
like
that's the thing,
with
'cause when you
Eve,
have the
you never
Bob
know.
Or skis
Right,
and
right,
stuff
right.
like that. You know, somebody who's actually a fucking adult is
Like,
important
I don't
on
think
the CSM.
I don't think I could do a Bovmon at a CSM. I feel like, oh, that would be such a fucking nightmare. You know, like, I could see that being just a train wreck, because the only reason he even became a name anywhere was because of Eve News 24 and his editing. And since he's left that, I haven't heard from him or about him in anything. No one talks about him in Reddit. No one talks about him on Twitter. Like, he just disappeared.
This is the most press Bob-on has gotten in a year.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Right here,
That's
right
the
now.
point. You know, so.
Fuzzy Steve has actually a really interesting thing that he is posting. If you post a link here, Fuzzy Steve, in chat for he's got an audit log on his site for what CSM 11 would look like with 10 candidates. And so if you post that in chat, I will.
Yeah, we can relink it, yeah?
I will relink it on Nightbot.
Yeah, Fuzzy Steve does I think he's the guy that does all the interviews.
Steve Renukin,
Yeah.
I believe. Or maybe I'm mixing him up with a
It
different...
might be, but there's a guy that always does like interviews with all the different candidates and posts audio logs.
There we go.
There it
Yeah,
is,
you
right
can
there.
check the audit log that has been reposted there.
Oh, there
Excellent.
you go. Okay.
Okay, excellent. So, is there anything else in particular before we move on to the Nullsec Power Hour
That's
that
all
we
I
would
mean.
like to go over Aerith and nominate anything else? I want to have your commentary as we go through Nullsec Power Hour, of course, because CSM reflects on all aspects of the game. But anything else that either of you, I'm going to put one of you on the spot and the other. So, nominate, you go first. Anything else you'd like to say on the matter of the CSM before we move on to the next segment?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that when you're choosing who to vote for CSM, find an adult. Vote for an adult. Vote for somebody who is working for the betterment of the game, not for whatever particular play style they prefer. Someone who can sit down in a room with people they don't like and deal constructively with each other.
Excellent. And nominate? Excuse me, Aerith.
The CSM is most successful when we're united. Every time I can think of, with one notable exception, fuck you, Fuzzy. When we were united,
Hold on a second. Please, hold on a second. Can we come back to that real quick? Don't just throw out the fuck you, Fuzzy.
that was a nice one. That was like a ribbing at him, not a mean one.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say
Don't worry, I got that covered.
We can't go
There's
past that.
one time that we were united as a CSM, every one of us, and won something we wanted, and he's not hearing it. I'm like, okay, well, so you can't win them all.
Hashtag fuck you, Fuzzy.
Hashtag fuck you, Fuzzy. I love it. Yeah, I got a question though. So I mean, we talked a lot about like the election and what's coming up here, but what did you guys think of the trip to Iceland? How was that? Because you guys just got back, yeah, just recently this week. I mean, did you guys
Anyone who
enjoy that?
thinks it's a free vacation is wrong.
I'll go farther. I've said it before. Love you, CCP, but it's an Arctic hellhole. Like, the food there is either really expensive or terrible, and you're not going to be anywhere but an office building or out in the cold all the time.
Yeah, because don't they always do it in, like, the middle of fucking winter? Like, when the shit's, like, trying to kill you?
Yeah, this time we were getting in there around 9 o'clock, and it was still pitch black outside.
Yeah, winter summits are awful. Actually, the last time that I went on a winter summit, of course, I was on CSM 6, and that was the year that I went to Iceland 5 times in 12 months, which Iceland is great to visit. Going there 5 times in 12 months is a huge pain in the ass because it's a town that's smaller than even Little Madison. Essentially, Iceland is like Reykjavik is like a tiny little town by the rest of the world standards. So what we ended up doing is actually, I think there's pictures of this. There was a blizzard, and it was me and Death and T-Rex Thork. We're like, fuck it, let's go to the Blue Lagoon in the middle of a blizzard. So, I mean, of course, we found a way to party because it's us. And even though we were, back in the day, CSMs had a lot more unity. Of course, the CSM6 was incredibly united. It was a different generation of devs at CCP. This was long before the diaspora, where so many of the best people at CCP were poached, essentially, by Riot. Riot was like, you guys are great, you're doing great work, come work for Riot. So we would work all day and party all night and pound Red Bull and just grind through it on stimulants and coffee, as one does with most trade shows. So Death and Tirax and I nearly ran off the road because it was the middle of a blizzard in December in Iceland, or November. It was some sort of hellish time. Went to the Blue Lagoon. Nobody was there. The snow was going sideways at us, and there's me, Death, and T-Rex basically stripping down to our skivvies and getting in the Blue Lagoon after CSMing all day. We nearly got stuck in a ditch. A bus ran off the road because nobody was driving because it would have been stupid, but there we were. That's the only thing that I thought was interesting to do in Iceland in winter. Is you just sort of go stir crazy. Anyway,
sounds actually amazing.
Yeah,
So we're gonna. Oh, sorry.
Well,
it's a
Death and I
beautiful,
are like a party in a can. So
it's a beautiful country. I've been there twice, and I would love to actually see it sometime.
Yeah, looking out the windows on break, and I see the nice mountains and the snow, and I'm like, now that would be cool, or a helicopter ride or something. But you don't even have time for that.
So business trip.
No, it's a sprint. It's basically, it is a business trip. You're going there, normally they don't even get you there on weekends. Normally you're there during the week at the cheapest possible time, and you're being on the CSM is being part of an unpaid focus group.
It's
do they even
quite
send
a
you
business trip.
Do you even get FanFest trips anymore, or do they not do that?
They give free. The ticket is free if you're at the CSM.
Wow. So back in the day, they would at
yourself
least
there.
fly you out to the CSM, you got to do something fun for your public service, basically. But it's not an easy thing to do at all.
The difference with business travel is when you're traveling on business, they'll reimburse your food.
Oh
wow!
Wait, do they not?
You guys don't get free food?
Well, they'll let you eat at their kitchen, and I know at Nominate 9, a few others typically pass on that.
Wow. See, back in the day,
crazy.
we would actually have dinners that CCP would take us to, and we would discuss. That would be why it would be a constant. The old school CSMs, the way it worked is you didn't all get to go to Iceland. It was, I think, top 7 back in the day. And then... Actually, I don't remember if it was top 7 or top 9, but whatever. We'd go to Iceland, and then you would work in the conference rooms all day, and then you'd go out to dinner, and you'd still be working because you'd be going to dinner with the devs that you had been interfacing with. So they were business dinners. CCP would pick up the tab, but you would be CSMing, and then you'd only really get to have time off party time after the dinners. Of course, we would usually just keep
the best
partying and grinding, but
That's funny. The Slayer mentions that the CCP kitchen owns. Yeah, well, when you're from Scotland, I mean, it's not like
I'm not going to
It's
listen
not
to Slayer
really
from Scotland. I'm not going to listen to
like-
the Slayer about good food at all.
We can't listen to the Slayer about anything at CCP. We know what happened to you, buddy.
Wow.
Say
Okay.
no more.
So,
We're going to move on.
before we
I think
move on-
it's like Power Hour with that lovely segue. But before we move on,
Yes.
we get some shout-outs.
DX3
because we had some
Eve.
subs.
Yeah, DX3E 5 months in a row, and Cold Corpse Coliseum
you.
is a brand new Twitch Prime subscriber. So thank you very much.
Wonderful, guys. Can we get some Black Eagles in chat? One of the things I want to
Yes.
get people in the habit of doing is that when you see somebody subscribe, even if we don't get a chance to give them a shout-out, throw some Black Eagles in chat to welcome them aboard, and we'll make sure that we get the shout-outs at the end of each segment. So let's go to the Nullsec Power Hour.
Yes, as we move into our transition here. Should be working. I love the people that create these. Are so cool. So we go Nullsec Power Hour, and our first story in the Nullsec Power Hour comes directly out of the North and the South at the same time. Brave has announced that they will be abandoning any chances of taking Cloud Ring. They were doing a campaign with, I think, Pandemic Horde to try to clear initiative out. They've said, fuck this. We're done dealing with PL and other people, and are heading south. Tess is going to be giving them their old home in GE-8.
Of course, the Initiative is probably one of the most dangerous members of the Imperium. We are very proud of Sister Bliss and his crew, and it always seems that periodically people forget who the fuck the Initiative is. And they're like, oh, wow, I'll go mess with the Initiative. What could possibly go wrong? Oh my god, I'm on fire! Like, I was seeing the Reddit propaganda from the Brave guys before. They're like, oh, we're just going to go smother the Initiative. Like, hush now, no more words, blah, 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 blah. Like, you do not want to piss off Sister Bliss.
The very first time, like, their massive Brave form up, they were like, wait, you mean they're part of the Imperium and goons are going to come help? We showed up with like 300 dudes, and Initiative had like 150, and it's like, well, yeah, what do you expect, dude? Like, they're our allies.
I
you can't,
So they're going to catch.
Yes,
apparently.
and Test and Try and all them are going to give them their old home. Now, this is very interesting because you can't really safely live in Ketch unless you're blue to the person that owns Head or you own it yourself. And Test has made it very clear that they will own Head, GP. So I'm curious how that's going to work. I don't know.
Well, they're getting the old Test pocket, right? Which is near the exclusion zone. One of the things that's interesting about the reshuffling in Catch is this is a whole bunch of space that nobody really wants, right? And so the continual problem of the sort of shaking out of the Traders' Wars, that you have a lot of territory that Stainwagon had that was before FozzieSoft, like these regions after regions full of renters, and you can't really put people in them. So CO2, which was one real half of the military power of Tesco, went to Impasse, and Test is going to Esoteria, and then there's just like 5 regions. So whoever ends up in Catch or any of these other floodplain regions, it's just going to be a matter of time, twiddle, 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 when they settle in and they think that everything is going to be fine, and then Stainwagon comes boiling out of Stain and then just slaughters these people who have been put directly in their path.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is they're starting to get tastes of that here and there. We'll actually segue this into the next story, which has to do with Coven. Coven announced this was leaked to Reddit via a Vili broadcast to Test, that Coven announced they will strike a deal to leave Esoteria with all assets. And the Test has been informed multiple times, don't kill them at their Fortizars, let them get their shit out, and they're out the door. No comment from Coven, though. A lot of people have been inquiring what the hell Coven's up to. I have no idea. But according to Test, it's, hey, see you later, bye.
I want to bring in our guests here, even though they are here for CSM purposes, because I want to get your opinion on the impact of these recent wars, where many regions have been thrown up for grabs, and they're extremely low population, ADM1 systems across the board. What do you think, Aerith and Anominate, about population density in Nullsec and how this reflects upon the system of FozzieSoft from a CSM perspective?
I've sort of been arguing for years that the thing Nullsec needs more than anything is increased population density and mechanics to support that.
And what would that include?
Just basically letting systems handle more people at once. I think something that we're learning right now is that systems can already handle a lot more people at once than we had previously realized.
I don't know about we definitely had realized that they could handle this many, but mining was never something that we would actually do. Now with all the revamps, mining is something important, but the way you live in Null has fundamentally changed, since Citadels and more importantly since ECs.
Could you spell that out for some of our viewers? I mean, we've got a lot of people who watch the Meta Show that aren't necessarily living in Nullsec, so they don't necessarily know that. How has living in Nullsec fundamentally changed since Citadels and FozzieSoft?
Before, you were encouraged to hold large amounts of space and then the moons on top of them in a static position as buffer space in case you were invaded. Now, that isn't near as necessary. All of the fights are going to be around the Citadels, and so you actually want to concentrate your membership into the smallest footprint you can with the best TrueSec you can, ideally hanging off a pipe to where you have a very large density of people in each system, and they're safe by density. So safety comes from density now.
Sort of like way back in the day, straight out of Syndicate SU-8A4 OG represent, where you just pack a million dudes in one system, and then everybody can help each other out locally. You can have defense fleets and things like that. But what does this mean for the... I mean, the PCU is going up in general ever since EVE has added the Alpha Clone expansion, which has been a fantastic success. Big fan of it. We have seen more people playing EVE, which is great. But the density situation, if we increase the player density within nullsec, we already have regions where enemies are calling each other up and making deals to simply avoid
conflict,
dealing with Fozzy-Sov mechanics. Like, we'll fight over citadels and other things, and then be like, none of us want to touch Fozzy-Sov because the mechanics of Fozzy-Sov are so awful. And then the players are having to engineer ways around it, even when they're at odds with one another. What would increasing player density look like in a galaxy where there's already so many regions that are essentially empty?
You'll see the fights of Conquest be over those best regions set up for it, or the best pockets within those regions. And I don't necessarily see this density as being bad for EVE. I see it as being very positive for Life in Null, because with more density comes more people to hang out with. There's a shared feeling and ambiance when you're in a system with 100 dudes in it rather than a system with one other radar. So I think there's some quality of life that occurs in Null when you're very dense, and that helps the game.
and
There's
So
definitely a big community benefit there.
it's also
That is absolutely true, because you have more networking. And one of the things that I want to throw into this discussion, because it occurs to me looking at chat, that it's the obvious question, right? Which is, as Shirar says, Fozzy-Sov is so bad, not even the attackers want to deal with it. Sov is integral to the aspects of EVE Online that makes it get in the media, that gets people interested in EVE Online, which is something that some people will occasionally forget. What is the CSM? What can you tell us about the CSM advocacy regarding dealing with this abomination?
I can't say what we've discussed with them or what ideas they've presented or we presented, but I can say I think CCP understands that this is an issue and they're looking at it.
I should hope so.
One thing, I think that there's already a pretty good pathway to just get rid of Fozzy-Sov completely. Like, maybe even get rid of Sov completely, or I don't know. But we have Citadels now. Citadels are just a step away from why even have Sov at all.
Because if you could have upgrades for the system in a given Citadel, you could completely get rid of Sov mechanics, so they would all be essentially what you would put in an iHub goes into a Citadel.
Or give an iHub Citadel mechanics or anything along those lines.
Clever. I mean, that would be entirely reasonable, I think.
We talked about that once on this show, a couple months back now, where what would happen if you gave iHubs guns, but then people had to shoot them, right, rather than doing the hacking shit. Turn them into almost like a Citadel, right? And so they're vulnerable just like they would be now with Fozzy-Sov, but you have to, and they work on the mechanics, like the ratting, bringing the Fozzy-Sov to like 10 minutes and taking longer to reinforce. But the problem with this is, like, Citadels the way they are now are still not refined yet. Because as you see with Keepstar fights, it could turn into a 9-10 hour slugfest full tie-dye if you want to kill the thing.
Well, for Keepstar, I think that can be worth it. One of the things that Shirar is pointing out is that Sov could be about who has more points for the stations in an area over time, like who has more Citadels over time period. But what I want to... Because CSM discussions are ultimately about CCP player relations and about game design, right? And I want to highlight again the way in which Fozzy-Sov was implemented versus the way in which Citadels were implemented. You had two different teams within CCP working on Citadels and working on Fozzy-Sov. Apparently one day Fozzy just woke up and said, hey guys, here's Fozzy-Sov, blah. No consultation, bad implementation, bad system, free intel, no understanding of how players actually work, just shameful, literally shameful. By contrast, we have nothing but good things to say about Citadels. The team that created Citadels spent months doing listening tours. You could talk to the Citadel team. They would come around to major wormhole organizations, to major alliances. The devs would get on comms and ask people how they played the game, ask people what they would like to see from Citadels. They would post previews in dev blogs months in advance saying, this is what we're thinking about doing, guys. They collected feedback, they responded to feedback, and lo and behold, this iterative communication process with these stakeholders, i.e. the customers, the players, has resulted in a system which is so good that I think a nominate suggestion that you could solve many of the problems of FozzieSov, which was created in the exact opposite way by bringing on board more FozzieSov and more Citadel mechanics. So it's not just that Citadels are good and FozzieSov is bad. It's that Citadels are good because of the process through which the company and the game designers worked with the player base to design an effective system that makes everybody happier, and they continue to do improvements in iteration on that. I mean, that's my little rant there. I don't know if Aerith or Nominate have any
Well,
follow-ups on that.
I posted my feedback a long time ago when FozzieSov was right in, and I went for the fundamental flaw in the entire system, which was orbiting something with your little Sov laser is very boring and other people don't participate. You need a system where everyone gets to shoot something, and that's the major flaw.
The idea of an EVE Online system where you blow something up and you don't get a kill mail is such a fundamental blasphemy to the very basics of EVE Online. EVE Online is in many ways about kill mails. Right now, there's transactions and you can have a kill mail even in terms of market PvP. It might not be a kill mail, but there is a transaction record of what you did, proving what you accomplished, and that's not there with FozzieSov at all. Yeah, not that I'm biased on the topic.
It's just a mess, right? But we are running out of time. We got about 5 minutes left, and there is But
why don't we let's point and laugh at Rikoku?
Yeah, there's a triple PL hit here because the supers that died had a lot to do with PL because it was HK that were the guys that initiated this. So we have three things, boom, one after the other. PL just gangbanged 2 Black Omega Security Nixes. You'll know Black Omega Security recently joined MC. MC do have a home in Tribute as far as I'm aware, unless that's suddenly changed. And 2 Black Omega Security guys tried to sneak out their Nixes that were stuck probably from the CO2 era, when they were in CO2, and they got butted up. They got in the butt. And then a few bits later, we had HK, which for those of you that don't know HK, they live in wormhole space, but they also own Supers and 0-0 because they're all part of PL. They proceeded to, or part PL, not part PL, whatever the hell they say all the time. They caught Care for Kids. So Care for Kids, what they do is if you go to Cobalt Edge, say you drop like 50 bombers on something, to kill it, what they'll do is they'll drop 7, 8, 9, 10 super carriers, proceed to wipe your fleet out, and then go back to making money. Care for Kids is notable for this. They've done it for years. And then following that, they got baited. So some wormhole guys decided to drop a whole bunch of dreads. Out came the 10 super carriers, and then HK appeared with like 50 dictors and 20 super carriers and proceeded to clean house.
They would have the Nixes on a bait Archon.
Yeah, they would have killed a lot more. Oh wow, so those 2 Nixes, yeah, wow, that's terrible. Holy shit. So yeah, it would have got a lot worse for the big super drop. There should have been like 10, 11 kills, but they got away at the last bit because the system was sino-jammed and HK had to gate through bubbles. They had to kill a whole bunch of bubbles.
Speaking of explosions, Dead Titan happening just behind us here on...
The Ragnarok's not dead yet. It's still alive.
Oh, something massive just blew up.
Those are Dreads. Those are Dreads blowing up. That's the new animation for Dreadnoughts. They depend on the race and the ship. They blow up in funny ways. There's also really cool lighting based on how they explode, where it'll appear on the other ships, like the explosion light. So you can see that. That's really awesome. And then finally, since we're on the topic of Care for Kids, Rikoku got purged from PL recently. Apparently, when your corporation falls to 60 members and doesn't ever show up on ops, they get purged. And it just so happens that the guy who runs Care for Kids also runs RKK, and that's C4W3.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of guys.
Yeah, so PL's finally purged him, and look, let me be honest here. In my humble opinion, the only reason his ass was still in PL at all ever was because casino relations. That's the only reason he was allowed to stay. Once that was gone, it was just a matter of time before he got purged, right?
All I'm going to say is, DB Preacher, go fuck yourself.
Anomaly, you're old school. Tell me about this. What do you think about them getting purged again?
I'm kind of surprised they're even still alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
their second alliance now ever. It was Bob and then PL, and well, that's
Well, they
that.
reformed Rikoku, like it was nothing, and then this guy actually like remade the corporation. So
Yeah,
whatever.
because what's his name got married and got a life and said "fuck Eve," right? Sir Mole, right? So
Oh,
Yeah, so that's not even really Rikoku. That's
just a new one. Yeah, pretty much just a brand new corp. We're watching Supers die as we run out of time here.
That is beautiful. All right, guys. Well, we are coming up to the end of the show, so I'm going to go ahead and play us out, Keyboard Cat. Thank you all so much. Let's see if we need to do any shout-outs.
I don't believe we have any new ones. No, we do not.
Last segment? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
Oh,
So-
here we go. We have a donation from Shirar. He called it the BDCSM instead of the BDSM. And he said...
Wow.
I missed what he said, but it is a $3 donation from Shirar. I know it's Shirar because he always comes up with those
I'm
gimmick
going to-
names.
I'm going to bring it up here because
Yeah.
I can actually do that on the
You
Muxy
can
ticker.
actually refresh it, too, and get it to show again, which is hilarious. In
I
case anyone
will
missed
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
So we can't see anything because there's too big faces in the way. Did we actually put the donation alerts under?
No. Donation alerts.
notifications?
He's talking about the fight. He's talking about the fight. The cameras in Eve are really weird, and
Okay,
sometimes
I'm going to actually resend the alert because I love seeing
there it is. He says it's painful being on this year's CSM. It's
That
BD
is
CSM.
beautiful. So one of the things that I'm pretty excited about doing here is we're getting the animations to run for longer.
There it
because
is
they're only like
again!
a 3-second thing. Yep, I sent it twice.
It even says
Um,
bronze donation, which is really nice.
I'm actually I'm watching it on the show itself. Okay, there it is. Good.
Yeah, it's there. No, it works.
There we go.
Yeah, it
Perfect.
works.
Wonderful placement. High
Yep.
fives all around.
So-
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you also to the team at INN. I want to go ahead and shamelessly plug INN is recruiting because since we are not a corrupt dark money environment that runs on casino stuff, unlike our competitors who are now broke, you can join the Imperium News team. Fear and Balance News. We report. We decide. We're looking for front-end developers. We are looking for streamers. We are looking for writers. Get some Mad Spacebox and help spread the word.
And as always,
And coming up next is going to be the boat show, I believe.
I don't know what I'm playing yet. I haven't decided, but we'll play something. But
We'll play
as
something.
always, yeah, I want to take a moment to thank Anamina and Aerith coming by. It's always a blast to have these two. We had them here the last time there was a summit. They told us stories. It was funny. So it's always great to have the best CSM candidates and members come on here. And I look forward to see how the selection goes. It's going to give us news. I love news. There's not a lot of Eve news sometimes. So
CSM drama.
yep.
Hilarious.
So bye, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. The boat show. Next boat show.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching